Good day, ladies and gentlemen. And today, me, Triple X, and Chainsaw are all going to be talking about one of my favorite film franchises of all time, James Bond! Da-da-da-da! Now, first, Triple X, what got you into James Bond in the first place?
I vividly remember as a child sitting on the couch one day when my aunt decided to show me this movie. She says, "Oh, you're gonna love this. It's got action and all kinds of cool gadgets." And oh my God, I was hooked. I watched it 3 times that day. That was my introduction to the legendary James Bond in that iconic opening.
Now, which James Bond movie was it, though?
For your eyes only, I didn't want to say that, but we'll go ahead and blow the surprise now. For Your Eyes Only was my very first James Bond movie. One of the coolest cats ever to grace the big screen, Roger Moore himself.
All right, Chainsaw, what was your introduction to the franchise?
So initially, my dad, I was getting into karate, and my dad said, "Here's a karate movie," and it was You Only Live Twice, which has nothing to do with the novel You Only Live Twice, but other than Blofeld's in both, and so is Bond. But I was hooked from there. I ended up seeing that, and then a marathon of them, which I think ended with GoldenEye. It was the first time GoldenEye had been aired on television. But I saw like Man with the Golden Gun, From Russia with Love, probably Live and Let Die. It's hard for me to remember. I was very small. And then I was introduced to the Bond novels, the Fleming novels, when I was a teenager. And I remember reading Casino Royale, really liking it, and then not following up on it. And it wasn't until Rona happened that I'm like, well, I need to read through all these Fleming books. They're all really short. And that's how I spent my 2020, was going through all of those. And it reignited my love of the franchise from there.
So I was born at the exact right time to get into Bond because since I was a child of the 90s, I was the right age to play GoldenEye 007 for the N64, and man, I was hooked on that game. One time, young General Lotz was somewhat, shall we say, naughty. I don't remember what I did or what happened, but I got to play any N64 game I wanted, but I was grounded from that one game for a week. It was a very long week. So after playing the game, I wanted to watch the movies. The first movie I watched is the first movie we're going to talk about, Dr. No. So today, it's kind of hard to go through the Bond franchise because there's so many James Bond movies. So myself, Triple X, and Chantar each picked 3 movies that we love the most out of the entire franchise. And so we're going to start up with Dr. No, which I first watched back in, I think, 1998, I want to say. Something like that. James Bond, Dr. No, was the very first Bond movie to ever be released, but it was not the first book to ever be released. The basic plot of this particular movie is essentially, it's a little hard to follow some of these plots, to be perfectly frank. The basic plot is some British officials get shot by some unknown criminals. Bond has to go investigate. Come to find out, it's a evil villain with robot hands. So, Triple X, when did you first see Dr. No?
I saw Dr. No shortly after I watched For Your Eyes Only, because my aunt had explained that this is actually an anthology of movies based on the books. So naturally, I was like, oh, hell yes, I want to watch it. And she's like, well, you're in luck because I happen to have it. And I sat down. Now, keep in mind, I went from the slickly produced For Your Eyes Only to the basically black and white Dr. No. And while I still found some entertainment there, it was a very, very stark contrast between what I just saw and what I'm watching. I was able to follow it along perfectly fine. I was a little too young to understand the core concepts and like motivations and everything. But for what it was, I was still hooked. I got the Bond bug, and I was basically fully blown infected at this point. So, and also, to mention, if I remember correctly, I know you said that it was based on the book, but not the first book. I also believe it was the shortest Bond movie in the franchise, yet it still made a gazillion dollars for its time.
So, Chainsaw, when did you first see it?
Okay, I actually have a funny Dr. No story. Well, I first saw it on Spike because Spike would get the rights to most of the Bond films and would do marathons on a regular basis. But it was the first Bond movie I bought on DVD, and I bought it from a Kmart I lived around the corner from. And so I bought this DVD with my allowance money, and I was walking home, and this guy, I used to see him all the time. He lived down the street from me. He was he had mobility issues. He flipped his scooter in front of me, and myself and like several other people ended up helping this guy back into his chair. And I said, "Don't do an ollie in your chair," and he didn't know what that meant because I was an annoying 12-year-old. But anyway, I remember this was the first Bond movie I saw in widescreen, which should note that this and the first couple Connery Bond films are not in 16:9. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. They're in a really weird aspect ratio, which they fixed on the Blu-rays. But I just remember the DVD just felt like a little too stretched. You know what I'm talking about when you're watching? It's just they were just a little too wide. Like everyone's face was just slightly too wide.
You can't see it, Chainsaw, but I've got some footage playing, and I can see how it's a little wide, because the Blu-ray footage I have is in a different aspect ratio from pretty much all the other footage we're going to see.
Yeah, and that's because these films were shot on like a low. It's funny because they're shot on a cheaper budget, but you wouldn't know that by watching them. That's like the only way you can tell is that they use like a weird type of film stock.
All right, so how about the effects? The effects for Dr. No have kind of held up, but you got to remember this is a movie from 1961. There are some goofiness. One of the things I love about Dr. No and all the other Sean Connery movies is just the fact that it has like a lot of seriousness and a lot of goofiness to it too. Like at one point, a lot of this got parodied by the Austin Powers movies, but like one of the things that ends up happening is the villain sends out a poisonous spider to take out Bond. What did y'all think of that?
I mean, it's a scene that I don't like to watch because I don't like spiders. It's a weird combination of scenes from. Can I talk about the books?
Yeah, you can.
Here? So it's a combination of two scenes from the book. There's one scene where they put a centipede on Bond, like a very poisonous like centipede on him, and that's the scene, but they do it with a spider instead, because there's a different scene where Dr. No makes Bond go through this torturous obstacle course where he like burns him and freezes him, and then he has to go through like an air duct, which kind of happens in the movie, but it's full of spiders, and he has to use like a makeshift wire spear to kill all the spiders and crawl through their nasty bodies. So it's like a weird amalgamation of those two scenes.
Which I can see why they kind of cut that down a little.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like a weird digression that doesn't really work in a film versus it works in a novel.
And then what did y'all think of the most famous scene, I think, well, other than Ursula Undress, which we'll get to in a minute, but like one of the more famous scenes in the movie is where Bond ambushes one of Dr. No's henchmen and just straight up blows him away. What did y'all think of that?
Bond to me is, in a lot of people I know, they kind of get a little, not miffed per se, but like they think that like Bond is above killing henchmen, and I'm like, he's a tool of the British government, and in the end, he's sent to do a job, and if you stand in his way of the goal, Bond will kill you. Plain and simple. Like, I don't understand why people seem to just get so like, it's like how people feel about Batman, how Batman never kills anybody. Batman killed so many people, you just didn't want to acknowledge it. But yeah, dude, he's a special agent on a special mission with a license to kill. I think he's going to put that license to good use.
Yeah, and that's the thing with all of Connery's films. At the end of the day, he's essentially a government hitman. He is sent to kill people. That is his purpose, and gather intel and that sort of thing. As the 70s would roll on, Bond would evolve into more of an action hero, and that's fine too. But at its core, Bond is a cold-blooded killer.
He was the original 47.
Exactly.
He was Agent 1.
Well, at least he's not Agent Orange. So, what did y'all think of the Bond girl Ursula Andress? Now, Gramps, who was, a bit younger than all of us, I think, when this movie came out in 1961. I think he had just gotten married to my grandmother at the time. He told me that, like, back then, everybody called Ursula Andress, the first Bond girl, Ursula Andress, because she was always showing up half naked in movies, which, in the early 60s was kind of a big deal. I mean, today that's like nothing, but back then, that was pretty scandalous.
Good old Ursula Andress. I can sum up my feelings about her not in a phrase or a word, but in just a simple sound effect.
I don't know what that sound effect is, but...
That again?
Did that not come through?
No.
Okay. Well then, all right. When I saw her, I was like, I can't walk. I can't get off this couch for the next 15 minutes. She was quite the looker for a young medic. Back when I was only a single medic.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it, like the Bond films in general, but this one in particular with her introduction and stuff, it's when you're a kid, it's like, am I supposed to be looking? Like, do I look away? Why am I looking around to make sure my mom's not walking in the room?
Oh yeah, I crane my neck too. Like, who's in the room with me? Anyone? Oh, okay, good.
Let's put it this way. When I rented the VHS from Hollywood Video back in the day, there's a scene where Bond and Honey Ryder, that's the name of the Bond girl in the movie, they have to get doused with like some kind of anti-radiation juice. And I think in one of the earliest scenes of what we today would term cheesecake, you kind of see like what might be some naked titties. It's really a flesh-colored towel. It's once again for 1961. I can't imagine what the people at that time must have thought.
They're scandal movies for their time.
I can imagine because, like, yeah, that was a rough part of the VHS. You kind of had to adjust the tracking there a little bit because, damn.
It had that Basic Instinct tracking.
Pretty much. Okay, so at the end of the movie, of course, Dr. No gets defeated. He gets thrown into like a nuclear reactor and is like either drowns or burned to death. And then finally, his base gets blown up in an epic explosion that still looks pretty good today. Like the British were very good with their miniature work. So since I come from a fairly, conservative family, I thought Bond was gonna like get married to the girl at the end, because you gotta remember, when I saw this, it was long since the movies had come out, so I probably watched some of these movies like in a TV marathon or something. And so you go from Sean Connery to like Roger Moore or something, like, oh, it's just gonna be like a different universe in each movie. It never occurred to me back then to think that like Bond was just gonna like fuck her and move on. I just always find that kind of funny. So anyway, what did y'all think of the ending and Bond being kind of like a playa?
I want to just backpedal a second here, because someone else thought that that was a good idea, and in the 007 authorized biography, which is a book that was written shortly after Fleming's death, where Bond was a real character, like a real person, and his adventures kind of happened, but not the way you saw them. He actually marries Honey Rider,
Weird.
the Bond girl he chooses to marry.
Weird. They
So,
had nothing in common.
You weren't wrong. Kinda.
Weird. Triple X, what do you
Yeah.
think? No, wait. Finish Chainsaw?
No, I'm finished. I just
Okay.
wanted to throw that tidbit out there.
You know, wake me over the coals if you want, but I of all the Bond endings, I remember this one the least. I think this is, if I remember correct, that it has them in a boat being rescued by the Royal Navy.
Yes.
And you know, I never imagined Bond settling that. Conservative family too. I never really pictured him settling down, because to me, Bond was just like the ultimate bachelor at all times. And even as a young kid, I was thinking like, well, how could he be married if he's constantly away on missions? Like, what would his wife be doing while he's away and doing cool things in like Russia?
That's a good point.
But I did appreciate the ending. The ending kind of came out a little bit fast for me. Like I said, it is like kind of the shortest film in this entire series. Because for what it is, it's a fantastic movie, but the ending just really kind of came out of nowhere for me. But I still loved it. I'm still hooked. I still have the Bond flu.
All
By the
right.
way, feel free to edit this out. I posted the screen ratio in the chat.
I was reading that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I will. Okay, so now after we finish a movie, we'll talk about like what the rating system is. So I would give this movie a solid 8 out of 10. It's a little rough in places. Some of the effects don't hold up, but Sean Connery really sells the movie. He is a very charismatic individual. The villain, kind of lame, but you know they had to start somewhere. The Bond girl, absolutely gorgeous. This is a movie I could watch again and again throughout the rest of my life. Triple X.
Yeah, it is a good movie. It's one of those perfect movies where when I see if it's on, even though it's not my favorite, but I will absolutely sit down to watch it every time I see it on. And if I had one chief complaint, and it's only just because I wasn't alive when it was filmed, but the fire-breathing scarecrow dragon monster that they created was just a bit silly to me, even in the early 80s. But I can totally see, like, at the time, how that would have been just absolute weapons grade peak awesomeness.
So I didn't mention this before. I actually have a Bond podcast called Live and Let's Discuss, and we've talked about all of the main Broccoli Bond films up until the Craig era, which we're working on recording right now. With Dr. No, it's a great adaptation of the novel. Some things we didn't bring up were this is the first appearance of Felix Leiter and Quarrel. Both are great supporting characters. Connery's great in this. Unlike most of the other Bond actors, he hits his stride like immediately within the first film. Honey Rider's excellent. It's a very solid movie. I give it a good 4 out of 5.
Awesome. All right. So now we're going to be taking a look at For Your Eyes Only. Now, this is not a movie I chose because I'm not that big a fan of the more realistic Bonds, but this is where we've got a little overlap. We've got Triple X Medic saying that this is his favorite Bond movie of all time, and we've got Chainsaw saying it's one of his favorite movies of all time. So, Triple X, start us up. Why do you like this movie? What's it about? all that good stuff.
All right. So basically, and yes, I'm a little biased for this film because it is absolutely the first Bond film I ever saw as a kid. And like I said, I still remember my aunt putting this film on for me. And you have every Bond movie to this point has a not a medias res opening, but some of them have a little side tangent that gets tied up within the first 10 minutes. And as far as I remember, this is really the only movie that acknowledges his marriage to his wife, where you see Roger Moore's Bond mourning his wife at the graveyard, standing at her gravesite. And the opening to this film, I will admit, can be a little bit cheesy with the whole helicopter and Blofeld showing up in a wheelchair. And he has...
That?
I'm sorry?
You know the meta behind doing it that way?
Not necessarily, no. And I'm not knocking the film for doing it this way. Like I said, it still hooks you in the movie. And there's a line, Blofeld says a line to Bond that is just so perfect as he's begging for his life. And he says, "I will give you a delicatessen of steel." Like,
No. It says, in stainless steel.
That's right, in stainless steel, correct. So, if Bond ever wants to retire his license, he can go and sell Jill sandwiches in a delicatessen of stainless steel. And I still love that quote to this day. But more to the point, haha, pun not intended. When you see the undercover British Navy ship get destroyed by a landmine that gets tangled in their fishing nets, also that a rogue group can steal the ATAC system, which, I apologize, unprofessional, the name eludes me what ATAC is an acronym for. It's just such a cool opening, and the locales are perfect. The Bond girls are perfect. Even the playfully flirty figure skater, she's great. The car's great. The soundtrack's great. And I remember after I saw that movie, I wanted to be him. I wanted to be a British spy so bad. And the Cold War spycraft era just bit me hook, line, and sinker. I was in. I was sold. I wanted to be 008.
Sean Bean. Uh-oh.
Okay, can I jump in on this, because this was almost my number one pick.
I yield my time to Chainsaw.
Okay, so first of all, I love the book For Your Eyes Only, which is actually a collection of short stories that Fleming was trying to make into a Bond TV show in the late 50s that didn't come to fruition. This and Thunderball were both attempts to put Bond on either the small screen or the big screen. Because the Thunderball plan went wrong, he was writing it with another man whose name escapes me. He published Thunderball as a novel. When they made it a movie with Sean Connery, this guy comes out of the woodwork and is like, "I own the rights to this." And there are many thoughts that this is the reason that Fleming died kind of young, is that the stress of dealing with the lawsuits, dealing with Thunderball. But anyway, so Fleming dies before this is ever resolved. And they give this guy writing credit on Thunderball. But that was not good enough, because he wanted the rights to Spectre and to Blofeld. And so the Broccoli's kind of gave up on the Spectre Blofeld thing, and they gave it to this guy, and this guy would later make the 80s Bond film Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery, and then attempt to remake Thunderball a second time with Timothy Dalton, called like Warhead 2000, which thankfully never got made. But basically the Broccolis were so sick, Cobble Broccoli specifically was so sick of this guy, he just decides, okay, we're going to address that Bond had a wife. Because it was kind of, they were hinting at it after On Her Majesty's Secret Service, but they never came out and said it until Spy Who Loved Me. It's brought up in like a one-off sentence. It's like, okay, we're gonna open with Bond visiting Tracy's grave. Great scene. Then they don't even call him Blofeld in the credits. I think he's called Old Man in Wheelchair. And the fact that Bond unceremoniously throws him into a chimney was them saying, washing their hands of Spectre in general, saying, we don't need Spectre anymore. We're done with that. We're going to move on. And that's kind of what this movie is. This movie is a stripping down of like the big motifs that were going on with Bond, because Bond became a lot of visual spectacles. That's kind of how the Bond movies end up being, is we'll have a bunch of like smaller films like your Doctor Knows, your From Russia with Loves, and then it builds to something like Thunderball, which does very well, and then they go a little too far, and that's You Only Live Twice. So with Moore, it was Spy Who Loved Me was like a big thing, and Moore finally hits his stride as Bond. He's not trying to be Sean Connery anymore. He's his own interpretation of the Bond character. That's all well and good. Let's remake that, but put it in space, and you get Moonraker. You know, whether you like Moonraker or not is beyond the point, but it was a little much for people. And it was a little much for Cobble Broccoli. And he's like, okay, let's take it back. We need to address that Roger Moore is getting a little too old to be Bond. So, sure, he gets his revenge on Blofeld in quotations, and he doesn't feel any better about it. Let's have the Bond girl, whose father is murdered. She's out for revenge, and they're teaming up, and that's kind of their dynamic. And him telling her, like, hey, you know, you may want revenge, but it's not going to bring your father back, which I think is great. I like that there's the misnomer of who the Bond villain actually is. It's kind of a whodunit. I like that it's called For Your Eyes Only, and the Bond girl's plot is from the short story For Your Eyes Only, but it's also the Bond short story Risico, which is about smugglers, essentially, and our fake out villain is taken from that. And I think it's a great adaptation. I think the ending is absolutely perfect. It's just a wonderful, wonderful Moore film. It's my favorite of Roger Moore's films in general.
And then as for me, I did see this back in the old days. I never really came back to it just because, to me, I feel like it's a bit boring. It just feels, it's a very slow, I guess you could say more of a cerebral Bond movie. And this didn't really do that much for me. I'm one of those people, I like a bit of spectacle, which is why we're going to be talking about Moonraker later on in this video. So like for me, I would give this a solid, 5 out of 10. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's not one I'm going to come back to.
If before we move on from this film, I have to point out that, like, I do agree with Chainsaw about how I like how they kind of hide who the true villain is, almost right up to the very end. But in terms of spectacle, this is just one of the most beautifully shot movies too. Like, especially when you look at the locations they go to. Some of the snowy scenes can be a little boring because it's just cloudy and gray, but when they're in the ocean being dragged behind the yacht, I mean, it's breathtaking. It's just a beautiful movie. And God, that Lotus that he uses, it's not the DB5, it's not the Vanquish, but it's still up there with the best Bond cars, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, it is. I think it's supposed to be implied that it's also Wet Nelly from Spy Who Loved Me, even though it has a different paint job.
Do you know how that car got to be in the film? It's a really interesting story.
Yeah, I do not know the story, actually.
So, all right. The owner of Lotus is a big Bond fan, and he wants to get his cars in the movie. And he knows that they always choose the flashy cars. They typically go for British cars, which, Lotus was at the time a British company. And the executives for the Bond film were having a meeting essentially right across the street from where he lived and worked. So what he did was he took his car, the Lotus Esprit, and he took all the badging off of it entirely. So you didn't know what it was. And it was painted white, pure white, like it is in the movie. And he drives it right to where these executives are having lunch and parks it, and he just waits. And after lunch, all the executives come out and they're looking at this absolutely gorgeous car, but they don't know what it is. They want to know what it is, but there's no badging on it. So they're like, this is a beautiful car. This is perfect for our film. Who makes it? And then, the CEO of Lotus is like, oh, hi, this is my car. Do you like it? And he's like, oh, I love it. Can we use it? And he's like, well, sure. What's it for? They're like, oh, Bond. And he's like, well, I suppose. Meanwhile, it was an absolutely intended move on his part. What a brilliant strategy to not put any markings on it whatsoever to leave them guessing. And that's how Bond got his Lotus Esprit.
That's pretty badass.
Oh, the British, they're very crafty.
Okay, Chainsaw, what's your final thoughts on the movie?
I think it's Roger Moore's best Bond film. I like the Bond girl. I like just about everything from this film. This is John Glenn directed this. John Glenn directed most of the great Bond films of this era, with the exception of From a View to a Kill, but we can't always be the best all the time. And you can always tell it's a John Glenn film because it just looks pretty. But he's only really known for directing these Bond films, which I think is kind of interesting.
Well, that being an astronaut, but yeah, who's counting, right?
Oh, apologies. Real quick before we move on to the next one. Quick fun fact about the Bond girl in For Your Eyes. No matter how hard the directors tried, they just couldn't come up with a good reason for why Bond would sleep with her. And everyone was saying, this woman just lost her parents and she's on a bloodlust revenge. Sleeping with a spy isn't going to really win hearts and minds. So they had to come up with an alternate girl for him to sleep with.
I mean, at least they didn't do a Michael Bay thing and have him just sleep with her anyway, so that's something.
Give us a kiss. Give us a kiss.
So now we're moving on to... Wait, anybody else have final thoughts?
Oh, no, I just forgot about the whole little Margaret Thatcher joke.
Margaret Thatcher naked on a cold day. Uh-oh. All right, so the next movie is Chainsaws, The Living Daylights, the first Timothy Dalton movie. Now, me personally, I think it's the most entertaining of the Timothy Dalton movies. It's definitely a much more, what I like to say, stylized James Bond movie. It's not super duper serious. We'll get to the super duper serious Timothy Dalton movie later on. It's definitely up there pretty high for me personally. So, Chainsaw, what do you think?
Oh, I love The Living Daylights. The Living Daylights is based off of a short story that Fleming wrote right before he died, which is basically the opening of Living Daylights with the woman sniper who's also a cello player who ends up being the Bond girl. And it's just Bond stuck in a hotel room, and he keeps thinking about this cello player because she's hot, and it turns out that he has to shoot her. That's basically it. But they make that into a rogue Russian officer is reaping havoc and like is faking defecting, and it's an interesting, fun plot. This is when we get the Aston Martin Vantage V8, which is an awesome car. That's my favorite Bond car. I almost bought one once, which would have been a terrible financial choice, so I'm kind of thankful I didn't do that. But it's fun. Dalton, this was, if Roger Moore wanted to come back after A View to a Kill, he could, but they weren't counting on it, so they were on it. They wanted Pierce Brosnan, but Pierce Brosnan was under contract to do another season of Remington Steele, so they couldn't get him. And so they went back to Dalton, who they wanted to replace Sean Connery after You Only Live Twice. So it's fun. It's a fun Bond film. It's got the gadgets, but it also has some of the coldness that Timothy Dalton brings to the role, because he was a big fan of Fleming's work. Sorry, my cats are fighting one another. It's close to their dinner time.
Oh no.
Yeah, they're being difficult. So, yeah.
Bad cats.
Yeah. Anyway, I really like this one. This is like my favorite of the fun Bond films.
Yeah, he has a laser attached to his car. I love the Bondmobile in this. I mean, he's got lasers, you know. I didn't like the Bond girl. I found her to be really, really, really annoying. She's my least favorite Bond girl, pretty much of the entire franchise.
Really?
Yeah.
Over Halle Berry?
Honestly, Halle Berry at least had some dignity. This girl in Living Daylights just has this kind of wide-eyed. You feel like she's almost special needs. No offense to special needs people,
She's
but like
a normal person. It's putting a normal person as a Bond girl. I kind of think it's interesting. I don't know. I don't agree with your opinion, but it is your opinion.
Exactly. But it's just like, she just is so. You take like a Honey Rider though, like she has dignity. Like you could see her like stabbing somebody in the throat, you know. Whereas the Bond girl in Living Daylights, I'm surprised she even knows how to open a mailbox. So, yeah. I guess we should also cover the fact this movie is kind of aged a little bit in the fact that you see there's some mujahideen in this that are like heroic, which always comes off as a little weird.
Yeah, they Rambo 3 it up.
And Triple X is one part that you should like. This movie directly influenced a scene in Uncharted 3. There's a scene where Bond is hanging out the back of a cargo plane. He has to fight his way back in, which Uncharted 3 completely took that. And it's actually one of the best sequences in that entire game.
Yeah, the plane sequence, and I'm speaking not Bond, but Uncharted, yes, that is one of the best set-piece moments. And I like that. I like knowing where they got the inspiration.
It's a fun movie. So, what was everybody's final thoughts on Living Daylights?
This is the film I know the least about, ironically. So I don't really have much to say other than I did see it once. And I know that there was a a ZX Spectrum game and a Commodore 64 game made for it that I briefly saw advertised.
I didn't know that.
Chainsaw?
Yeah, no. I just highly recommend this one. If you're nervous about the Dalton films, check out this one. This one's more approachable than the other one.
Except that Billy Bond girl. Ugh. All right,
Now I like Dalton. I like Dalton as Bond, and I loved him in what was the one with the cocaine cowboys and the televangelist, and they're turning cocaine into gasoline.
Oh, we're getting to that one later on.
Oh, okay, perfect.
We'll get
All
there.
right. All right, so now we're moving on to a Bond movie I've never actually seen, and that is Casino Royale. But this is one of the movies you chose, Triple X. So
Which
I've
is-
read, I've read the book actually, but I've not seen the movie. So, Triple X, what do you think of it?
So Casino Royale. Now, technically, if you want to be pedantic, it's the third Casino Royale because there was the book, and then there was the TV film in the 50s, and this was the debut of the new Bond played by Daniel Craig. And I know a lot of people seem to get really upset with Daniel Craig as Bond, but to be honest with you, I loved it. I thought he brought such a good edge to the Bond legacy. We can all agree that Pierce Brosnan was a scalpel. He was surgical, he was precise. Daniel Craig was a shotgun and a sledgehammer attached to it. He got the job done. It was messy, but it worked. And I remember, I didn't see it in theaters. I did catch it at home. I wanted to see it in theaters. I just couldn't at the time. And even watching it at home, and it still blew my mind with how big it was. The budget of this film must have been insane. I mean, we laugh now that it like movies costing $400 million to make, and we wonder why they're not turning profits. I think that must have been like a $200 million James Bond film, which was just unreal at the time. But you see where every dollar went, and it was well spent. Love it or hate it, I think Daniel Craig was a great Bond who I can't speak for the later movies. There were some less than great ones in his tenure, but for a first outing as James Bond, it just nails it. And that opening scene alone is just so good. So good.
Chainsaw?
Okay, so this is the one Craig film I recommend. The Casino Royale, the rights, was another fascinating thing because Fleming sold the rights to Casino Royale to, I think it was CBS, to make that 50s TV play, which is okay. It's an okay adaptation. Then the rights got sold again, and they made a terrible parody movie in 1967 where Orson Welles plays Le Chiffre and does terrible magic tricks, and it's not funny. It is a horrible movie. I will be talking about it on the Live and Let's Discuss podcast very soon. So, but it is awful. But for the long time, the Broccolis couldn't get a hold of the rights to this, and it wasn't until Quentin Tarantino said, I want to make a new Bond movie. I want to adapt Casino Royale, do a direct adaptation of the novel, and cast Pierce Brosnan, set it in 1954. And, just have a throwback film. So we almost, and it was going to be shot in black and white. It was going to be shot like a 50s film. Which did not come to pass. The only thing that did come to pass is the Broccolis got the rights to do Casino Royale. And they're like, well, it's a perfect time to reboot Bond, because what are you going to do after Die Another Day? And your Bond Brosnan is shit-talking you, which was deserved, because Die Another Day is horrific. It is a stupid movie. And
I'll
he
be
was
honest, I've
embarrassed.
never actually seen it.
Oh, it's terrible. It ends with Bond fighting a guy in a Power Ranger suit. It's so dumb. Oh, I'm sorry. He's a North Korean who turned himself into a Caucasian man.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. It's such a stupid movie. Words cannot describe how dumb it is. It's not actually the worst Bond film, but it might be the second worst. So this
Madonna was in that one too.
Yes, she does the worst Bond song of all time, and she has an acting cameo, and it's terrible. But they're like, what's popular right now? The Jason Bourne movies are popular right now. What else is popular? Texas Hold'em. Let's put those in our movie. And it works. It just works. I'm not saying that Casino Royale is a perfect movie. It's not. Some of the bigger action set pieces, I think, are a little dated. Like with all the airport stuff, it was completely unnecessary, and it takes away from the novel. But the card game is done, even though they changed it from Baccarat to Texas Hold'em because it was popular in 2006. It works perfectly and gets the point across. The torture of Bond is very faithful to the book and really hard to watch. Vespa Lynn's betrayal of Bond is very good. I love Eva Green in this. She's excellent. I always forget his name, but the guy who plays Felix Leiter is also really good in this too. I like that we kept Judi Dench's M for this transition. It's nice. There's a lot of really nice things. Unfortunately, the Craig movies kind of went from Bond is too young and naive to immediately Bond is too old to be Bond.
Yeah, it's like
The fault of this, that's the fault of Quantum of Solace, was really bad because of the writer's strike. And so they couldn't make a film for too long.
You know, if I do have one chief complaint about Casino Royale as a poker player, the way, and I know it's done for dramatic effect, I get that, but no dealer worth his salt would manipulate the cards to show each person's hand when you have a multi-person, all-in bet. The dealer would just look at the cards to see who had the best hand and declare the winner. They wouldn't manipulate it to say, oh, ace high flush, oh, full house, better full house, oh, straight flush. Now, I will admit that I love that he had a straight flush and not a royal flush, because that would just be ridiculous. The hardest possible hand to get, the royal flush. But the straight flush being the second best hand, that's a good call. And I'm not so keen on the new Q branch. You got Daniel Craig, who's too old to be Bond, and you got a Q branch who's like, Jesus Christ, you're in high school, kid.
Well, that's not even in Skyfall when they really start using the Q branch. Like, they don't... There is, like, tech given to them, but it's not Q. It's really weird. What they do with MI6 in Casino Royale and then in Quantum of Solace is utterly bizarre, because I don't know if you all remember Quantum of Solace.
I never saw it.
It's bad. It's really weirdly bad. It's one of the shorter Bond films, but it feels 5 hours long because they didn't have the screenwriters went on strike. So Daniel Craig and the director had to write sequences of the screenplay. It wasn't done. So you end up with one of the Bond girls is named Strawberry Fields, like after the Beatles song. The director was more focused on having set pieces that followed the four elements. So there's a fight by some water, there's a fight with fire, there's a fight with air, and like there's a fight with earth. It's just bizarre. So sometimes it feels like an art film, Other times it feels like the successor to Casino Royale. It's just, you can't, I feel like you can't talk about Casino Royale without Quantum of Solace, because Quantum of Solace is the only time the Bond series had a direct sequel that's like the next day after the events of Casino Royale. So they're like supposed to be watched together, but you don't feel like at the end that he's the Bond you know and love.
Yeah, you are right, because the opening of Quantum picks up at the very, very end of Casino. And I think that's a shame, because Quantum's villain was so fucking stupid.
Yeah, and then you get to Spectre, and then they retcon all the Bond villains previously.
Yeah.
That makes it even worse, which Spectre, a film that is the color of urine. It's so weird, because it's the same director as Skyfall, which is a beautiful looking movie. But Spectre looks like piss. It just does. It's just a weirdly ugly movie with a great opening set piece. With the helicopter, it's the De los Muertos in Mexico City, and then they in the helicopter flips upside down, which is really fun. I remember seeing that in the theater and just loving it. But I didn't love anything else in that movie. I was just kind of confused.
All right, so that was Casino Royale. Now, one of my things about the Craig era is it just felt very pretentious. Well, the next movie we're looking at is one of my personal favorites, and it's not pretentious at all. You know it. You knew it was going to be on this list. Moonraker. Okay, this is a movie that everybody hates, but I absolutely love. So, for those of y'all who've seen this channel for a long time, you know I love sci-fi. So you've got James Bond and sci-fi, James Bond going to space, having like a laser duel with like fucking space Nazis. Like, you can't get much better than that. To me, you can't. I mean, I get that, James Bond is supposed to be this kind of cerebral thing where, like, is he really a evil guy because he's an assassin? Is it right to fight for the government? No, now we're just going to say, screw all that. Let's have Bond basically become a superhero. And I'll go as far to say I think Moonraker could be considered like sort of a prequel to G.I. Joe, because yes, we have space marines in Moonraker that attack a space station in orbit over the Earth, and they have a laser battle with space Nazis. It's beautiful. This is not necessarily my favorite James Bond movie, but I think it's basically my second favorite. It also has some of the greatest stunts in like the entire franchise. There's so many great set pieces in this movie outside of the space. And oddly, there's a reference to Close Encounters of the Third Kind for whatever reason. I guess because it came out around the same time. But like, I want to thank Star Wars for giving us the Star Wars Bond. So, yeah, Triple X, what do you think of the movie?
Actually, you said sci-fi, but they clearly stated that Star Wars is sci-fi, whereas this is Star Fact. Thank you very much.
Embrace sci-fact.
Okay, this might shock you, but I actually do agree with you. I like this movie, as it is another one of the more movies I saw as a kid. And I don't know how this happened, but Jaws was intended to be a scary henchman of sorts. Not like the head villain, but definitely like the number 2 henchman. And for whatever happened, he just imprinted on children and he became a fan favorite. So they could never get rid of him, which kind of sucks if you're an adult because you know he has plot armor. And I was just cheering him on the whole time. Like, Jaws was just so cool. And, if it wasn't for Jaws, look how many cartoon characters in the 80s and 90s ripped him off with the metal mouth and the, biting through steel. Just great henchman. The story, the story I don't think was that strong, but who cares when you have actual space marines in space with frickin' space lasers fighting the space careful what I say here, the space fascists, if you will. It was cool. And you know what? I'm happy that Jaws found true love at the end. Isn't that what we're all here for in the end? Love.
It's just a fun movie. So, Chainsaw, what do you think? Now, you've actually read the book, so you'll have a different take on this, I think.
This and Spy Who Loved Me are two films that do not follow the Fleming source material at all. For Spy Who Loved Me, that's a good thing. For Moonraker, it's for shame. Moonraker is the third Fleming Bond book, and it's about Bond is sent by M because Hugo Drax is clearly cheating at cards at M's Gentleman's Club, and he can't figure out how he's cheating. He's cheating at Baccarat, and Bond is the best gambler that M knows. So as a personal favor, M brings Bond in to figure out how he's cheating, and Bond gets the better of Drax at cards, and Drax swears vengeance on Bond. Well, it turns out that Drax, he's like this rich guy who's helping with this rocket called the Moonraker. It's going to be like this British defense weapon, and they're going to test it shortly. Well, it turns out it's actually a nuke, and he's going to nuke part of Britain because he's part of Smash. And that's Moonraker, and the Bond girl is not even into Bond, and they don't. Bond's into her, but she has a boyfriend, which adds another interesting level to it. And it all takes place in and around London. It's the only Bond novel that does that. So, needless to say, I don't like Moonraker the movie because it's just Spy Who Loved Me script with the climax of Thunderball, but all in space. Also, Bond barely kills anyone, and he doesn't use the PPK at all. It's just weird. He kills a man with a shotgun. We also get the most horrific, for a movie that seems like almost G-rated at times and fun. There is a poor woman gets eaten by Dobermans.
Yeah, there is that.
Left field, and it's just bizarre. I do like it. Is one of my favorite Roger Moore moments, and it's a reference to Thunderball also, because Thunderball, there's skeet shooting in that, and Bond has like perfect aim shooting from the hip with a shotgun. It says it's actually really easy to make the villain look bad, and he does a similar thing but kills a sniper in a tree because I guess Bond smelled him from a distance. There was no way of seeing him, but it's a hilarious scene. It's the one scene I actually like from Moonraker. And then he throws the villain into space, which is awesome. In the novelization, because this got a novelization because it was so different from the novel, Bond actually does a spacewalk, which is like actually played up as like really terrifying for him.
I might have to read that. Moonraker, though, I mean, y'all can't see this, but I've got the space battle playing. It's just like, as a youth, I really, really enjoyed watching that, because it's like, when you're a kid, a lot of these Bond movies can feel very slow. Moonraker does not feel that way. Because, I mean, you got armed space shuttles. How awesome is that? I still have this since I was a kid, but me and my grandfather actually made a mock-up of the Moonraker shuttle. Although we took some artistic liberties. And that's how much I love this movie. Because it's just fun. So yeah, Bond has the dart gun that he shoots. I think he shoots like, what, 2 or 3 people, I think?
I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
He shoots the villain with that.
I just remember he just doesn't use the PPK in it at all, which is just weird. It's like the one Bond film where he has the PPK and like doesn't use it at all.
I guess they thought it was like too low tech, which honestly it was. The PPK is such an outmoded gun. I mean, it works. It'll kill you, but like there's so many better guns today compared to that.
And at that point, the Walther P5 existed, which he would actually transfer to using in Octopussy, and then go back to the PPK in the next film.
I mean, it is iconic. The climax of the movie has Bond and the Bond girl, and yes, this is her name, Holly Goodhead. That must have been real scandalous for 1979.
Well, I don't know, because this is the same franchise that is named Two Women Pussy.
That's true. So he has to use his space laser to shoot down this globe filled with like poison gas, and if it crashes on to Earth, it'll kill like millions of people. I thought that was actually a pretty good scene. I thought it actually had a lot of good tension to it. All right, so for me, I give this movie a solid 10 out of 10. Would watch again. I love this movie so much. Like, it's just fun. And there's also a scene earlier in the movie where like Bond has like a hovercraft gondola, like, and he like drives through the streets of Venice, which I'm not sure Venice even has any streets, but like he does it.
Oh yeah, it also has the bird that does the double take.
Yeah. I like goofy stuff, okay? And this is my favorite of the goofy Bonds. It's just fun. So, Chainsaw, what do you rate this movie as?
Like a 4 out of 10. Like, I'm just not a fan of this one at all. I think it's just a little too dumb for me. It's not the worst Bond film.
No, they'd be dying on the day, but all right.
Yes.
So, please.
Well, actually, no. I can't say that Die Another Day is the worst. There's actually one I can think of that's slightly worse.
We'll save that one for last. All right, so we'll move on to this is Medic. This is your movie again. Diamonds Are Forever.
I didn't want to rate Moonraker.
Oh, I thought you did. What do you think of Moonraker?
Okay, hot take. We haven't rated anything since Dr. No.
It's a podcast.
That's
we can
true.
get away with it.
It's just like thinking. I'm like, wait, we get to rank things other than Dr. No.
Okay. We'll go back to. All right. For your eyes only, I rate it like a grand total of like 5 out of 10. Chainsaw.
I give it a 9 out of 10.
Medic.
I give it 9 crossbow bolts out of 10.
Good. Okay. Living Daylights. I give it a grand total of 6.5 out of 10. Chainsaw.
I give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Medic.
I give it 7.5 cellos out of 10.
All right. And Casino Royale. I give it, haven't watched it, out of 10. Chainsaw.
Give it a 7.5. A 7.89 out of 10.
Medic.
I give it a straight flush 8 out of 10.
All right. Moonraker. We'll do it again. Moonraker. 10 out of 10. We'll watch again. Chainsaw.
4 out of 10. That's fine.
Medic.
7 space lasers out of 10.
Sweet. All right. This is one of your movies, Triple X. Diamonds Are Forever. Now, this is one that's considered the worst of the Connery movies. So you got a lot of defending you got to do.
Uh-oh. I'm in the hot seat, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Well, where do I begin? This was another childhood movie that was part of my binge that my aunt had on VHS. It had our legendary Sean Connery as Bond. And, I know this is not the place for it, but if I was a smart man, I would have chose The Rock as my favorite Bond movie, but I digress. That's neither here nor there. I love this movie simply for the fact that the Chevelle in the car chase in Vegas was just awesome. Even though it has one of the biggest movie gaffes ever, where a car goes up on its 2 left wheels through a narrow tunnel and comes out on his right. How the hell did the continuity not pick that one up. But Bond is at his best in this one.
Yeah, he kills somebody with a fire extinguisher.
There's this wonderful line where the henchmen break into his hotel room and they throw his female companion out the balcony, and she falls like 12 stories into a swimming pool. And Sean Connery just looks at the villain and says, "That was remarkable." I'm not doing the accent. He says, "That was perfect aiming." And he says, the villain looks at Sean Connery and says, "I didn't know there was a swimming pool down there." And I was like, oh, that's great. I love it. And I even love the fact that it has, and I'm sorry, I don't have their names, but there are these two henchmen. They're hitmen. They look like they work for the fucking DMV, and they're gay lovers, but they are the best. I don't know why, but I think of Kane and Lynch every time I see these two on screen.
Yeah, Mr. Wit and Mr. Kid.
Thank you. They're just the best. You can't not love them. I mean, seriously, they look like they should be doing tax stamps at like the IRS or any type of white collar work, but they're assassins.
Now, the plot for this movie is straight out of Austin Powers. Or wait, Austin Powers is straight out of this. Blofeld wants to put a laser on the moon. It's called Preparation A. No, it's called it's basically wants to use diamonds to build a laser on the moon.
I actually for a split second thought it was Preparation A, so I was like, no, wait a minute. It's not that. And it's not the Alan Parsons project either.
Nope. Okay, I'm actually looking at the scene right now of the car. Like, you wouldn't really necessarily notice, like, if you're just like a regular person.
Yeah, in theaters you probably wouldn't pick it up, but keen-eyed people are like, wait a minute.
So,
and it's such an egregious continuity error. Like, how did they not remember what side the car went up on?
I don't think Advil existed back in the early 70s. So Chainsaw, what do you
think?
Yeah,
it was BC powder.
Anyway, on that note, Diamonds Are Forever is a film I don't like, and I don't like the book either. Ian Fleming had a weird obsession with diamonds. It was like one of his pastimes, and he actually wrote a book about diamond smuggling. It's one of the few non-Bond books he wrote. But when he wrote Diamonds Are Forever, it is basically M dispatches Bond to deal with blood diamond smuggling, and he ends up encountering Mr. Wit and Mr. Kidd, who nearly beat him to death with steel-toe boots, which is like a really heinous scene to read. And they also smother a man who's like taking one, those when you go to those spas and they put the hot mud on you,
yeah,
and they like kind of bury you up to your neck in mud. It's supposed to be good for your skin. They bury a man completely alive in that, and it's like heinous. Like the books, like all the Fleming books are pretty dark, but that one's like especially like kind of mean-spirited. Also, it's funny you say Mr. Wit and Mr. Kidd act like they're gay lovers, because they're overtly that in the book, and it was very controversial at the time. Like, people were very up in arms that Fleming would do such a thing and talk about the LGBTQ community. But little did they know that a few books later with Goldfinger, Bond's magical powers of he's the best man ever would turn Pussy Galore, who is a open lesbian, into being a straight woman.
I mean, he's got the deal for it.
And that's why the left hate the Bond books. That and the use of racial slurs.
To quote epic rap battles, all the women want to be on D.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
I should get into this because Diamonds Are Forever is one of those Bond books that is self-contained Like you can read it and it doesn't, like Smash doesn't show up, Spectre doesn't show up, which is really weird watching the movie, because the movie's trying to be what the Blofeld trilogy was for the books. Because the Blofeld trilogy was Thunderball, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and You Only Live Twice. But because they filmed You Only Live Twice before they filmed On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and they decided to directly adapt On Her Majesty's Secret Service, they had to be like, oh, Bond needs to get revenge on Blofeld, which leads to a great montage of Sean Connery in first person punching people in the face, which is excellent. It's like one of the things I do like about this film, is that because like Bond in the novel You Only Live Twice is very sad and mopey after what happens in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So seeing Bond, just Connery's Bond's like, I'm a man and I'm going to punch people till I get to Blofeld, and then I'm going to punch him and throw him into like some hot tar. But it doesn't kill him because diamonds, kind of, which is weird. It's the worst Blofeld in my opinion of all the Blofelds. But like that, and what was the other one? Oh, he gets in a fight in an elevator and it's awesome. He and that other guy are punching each other in the face in the elevator. I love that. That's probably the most realistic fist fight since From Russia with Love's brawl on the train. Like Sean Connery, he was a legit fighter. Out of all the Bonds, he really, until you get to Craig, he really knew how to fight, and he was a judo black belt. I mean, he even trained Aikido with Seagal when making Never Say Never Again, which the less said about that, the better. But like, he could fight, and it was really, the problem was they didn't know how to film him fighting. So it leads you to some really awkward fights, like in You Only Live Twice when he picks up the couch and is fighting The Rock's uncle. That's actually a true statement. That's The Rock's uncle he's fighting.
Wow, that's crazy.
Or when he fights Oddjob, which, you know, it's just they didn't know how to film it, and they didn't know how to edit it either. So that's why his fighting looks so fake, but he could fight. It's just kind of a weird, frustrating thing if you're into like watching choreographed fighting or like just combat sports in general. It's one of those things that the older Bond films get accused of having bad hand-to-hand action, and it's just not the case with Connery. It's just they didn't know how to film it. Roger Moore couldn't fight. He took like a couple karate lessons when they did Live and Let Die, and that was it. He would like talk his way out of things, and that was his Bond, and you know, respect to that. Dalton could kind of fight. He could scrap a little bit, but we only got 2 films of that. And Brosnan and Craig were more gun everyone down with a machine gun.
That's my way of doing things. All right, so my rating for Diamonds Are Forever is 3 big titty babes out of 10. No, I'll take that back. It's 5.5 big titty babes out of 10. Triple X.
I rate Diamonds Are Forever 7.62 Mustang Mach 1s out of 10.
Chancellor.
I give this a 2 out of 10.
2 moon buggies out of 10.
This is just, it's one of the ugliest Bond films, and it's from like a weird, it's that 70s ugly. So,
Are you saying 2 driving instructors out of 10?
Yes.
All right. Well, one movie that won't be any driving instructors out of 10 is, of course, da-da-da-da, GoldenEye. So this was one of the earliest Bond movies I saw after Dr. No, and oh my God, this movie is good. Like, this is very much one of those back to basics sort of concepts. It kind of gets rid of some of the silliness, gets rid of some of the seriousness, and gives us a package that pretty much only the 90s could give us. Now, admittingly, the plot is pretty silly. Basically, the movie's about Bond having to deal with his former partner 008, Sean Bean. Basically, we get a little bit of a prologue when the movie starts up with Sean Bean and Pierce Brosnan, 007 and 008, infiltrating a Russian base to stop some poison gas from being manufactured. Sean Bean dies, or does he? There's a terrorist organization called Janus that is trying to not necessarily take over the world, but basically get a Russian satellite called the Golden Eye, and basically Sean Bean wants to use that to shut down all the computers in Britain and somehow steal all the money somehow. Don't think about it too much because it's a bit silly, but at the same time, when you're watching the movie, you're not really going to be thinking about it. You can very much suspend your disbelief just because Pierce Brosnan is very charming in this. The Bond girl is very hot, the hottest in all the franchise in my opinion. Natalia, you know, it's like a hot redhead Russian computer scientist. Hell yeah, I'm there. We got a lot of really good stunts in this movie. We've got a cool plane stunt where Bond has to catch up with the plane and like fly it around. Although I will admit it looks kind of shitty. The biggest stunt in the movie that's by far the most remembered is the one where he commandeers a tank and, you know, rampages through St. Petersburg. All told, this is my favorite Bond movie of all time. So I'll turn it over to you, Triple X. What do you think?
So this movie came out in a very weird time for me in my life. Now, at this point in my life, I was in my teen years, and this was the point of my life where I had one thing on my mind and one thing only, and it was getting a Bond woman of my own, if you catch my drift. And I did see GoldenEye. I like I said, I never saw any of them in theaters, but when I did see GoldenEye, the opening was so goddamn cool. I loved seeing him work with another 00 at the beginning, although even I knew that, like, this is so foreshadowing for later. I knew that he was going to die. I knew, or was he? And I knew he was more than likely going to come back as a villain, or was he? But God, that motorcycle chase off the cliff, free falling into a Cessna and just pulling up at the last second, that was such a nail biter, and it still is intense to watch. Even when you know it's a movie and nothing could possibly happen, it's just, the cinematography is top notch. The music is fantastic. The villains are all memorable and great. The supporting cast is great. And I'd like to get this out of the way early because I have a huge nitpick about this movie.
Uh-oh.
And I won't name him, but he says that he hates the fact that the MiGs are fly-by-wire when they weren't fly-by-wire. Okay, I can overlook that. But I cannot overlook the fact that they jettisoned themselves out of a helicopter with rotating blades. There's a reason why there's no ejector seats in helicopters.
In the movie, you do see the rotor blades blast off. So it makes sense in the movie, at least.
Yeah, but like, let's be realistic. That was a movie prop helicopter.
Wait, you mean James Bond isn't real? He didn't really, have sex with Famke Jason, or how the fuck do you pronounce her name?
No. And besides, Airwolf would have kicked that helicopter's ass.
Yes.
This is kind of up there with, we didn't talk about this with Casino Royale because I totally forgot. Remember when he defibs himself? Do you all remember that?
Yes.
Super Grounded. He defibs himself. So, like, I'll if I can take the defibbing of oneself, I can take the helicopter would have ejector seats.
Actually, he doesn't defib himself. Eva Green has to come and save him.
Well, that's true, but the idea was that he would be able to defib himself, and that's why he had it.
You know, okay, that makes sense. Like, if you need the fib, your chances are you can't do it yourself. By the way, I totally forgot to mention in Casino Royale, they set a Guinness Book World Record for most number of cars flipped in a scene when Bond swerves to miss Vesper in the street and he rolls his Aston Martin. Which, fun fact, by the way, if for those of you who like the BBC and Top Gear, the former Stig himself was the stunt driver for that particular scene, Ben Collins.
But no one cares because it's not GoldenEye. You'll be punished
Shut
severely.
How dare you?
We get the DB5 in GoldenEye. It comes back, which is fun. It's a fun little nod.
And in Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Blah, blah.
But it's in GoldenEye, and it's a fun sequence with Bond racing on the top.
Now, I didn't actually mention her. Like, she is the hottest Bond villain, like, ever. Like, oh my god, she could crush me any day.
Yeah, that psychotic murderous rage. Such a turn on.
I can fix her, I swear.
Yeah.
And Chainsaw, can you fix this movie?
Here's my thing with GoldenEye. I like this one. I like it. It was supposed to be a Dalton film, which is so weird, and that's why Brosnan's acting like Dalton through a lot of it. Like a nicer Dalton Bond. But this was originally The Property of a Lady, which is the name of a Bond short story that was written for a Fabergé egg magazine, which is actually used in the plotline for Octopussy. So they used that story because it's about Bond goes to an auction because this Fabergé egg's like stolen or something. Anyway, and he ends up in a bidding war with the villain, and then I think he kills the villain. I can't remember. It's a very short story, but it's mainly to show off that Fabergé eggs go to auction. It was just to promote like an auction for a magazine.
50s.
I think this was 60s.
No.
By the time this was early 60s. It was one of his later ones because there would be a short story collection that would be released after Fleming's death called Octopussy and the Living Daylights, which featured Octopussy and the Living Daylights. And then later editions would add The Property of a Lady and a travel story called 007 in New York, which is terrible and ends with a recipe for scrambled eggs and how Bond likes his scrambled eggs. That is the last thing Fleming ever published of Bond.
That sounds about right.
It's pretty silly. But anyway, so this was Property of a Lady was supposed to be a Dalton film that would deal with him being jaded again, and he would be undercover in a rodeo. There's like a fun concept art called it's in a book called The Forgotten. It's The Lost Adventures of James Bond. I have it. And there's this beautiful concept art of like this perfectly drawn Timothy Dalton in cowboy getup. It's so weird. Yeah. But it would have been more fun. It'd be more of a nod to like the fun of the Living Daylights, with Bond also being world weary. But then that turned into GoldenEye, which the name GoldenEye is what Fleming called his estate in Jamaica. Fun little fact there. And then Dalton gave up Bond because it took forever because they didn't know what to do with Bond after the Cold War ended. And they got Brosnan, who they wanted for Living Daylights. In my opinion, though, if I have to critique GoldenEye, Brosnan is the weakest link of all the actors. Everyone else is acting better. It's a George Lazenby on Her Majesty's Secret Service kind of situation, where Brosnan hasn't quite figured out what his Bond is going to be, and I think that Tomorrow Never Dies nails that a little better. That being said, Sean Bean steals the show. He's excellent in this. I like all the villains in this. I like that it's a kind of a smaller scale plot, but at the same time deals with satellites, with their new technology. I like the game. You can't talk about this movie without like talking about the game. I will say the novelization by John Gardner is kind of meh. But yeah, I like GoldenEye. I like it a lot.
And so this is a Bond movie that started to have like where Bond knew the villain. That became a big deal, especially in the Craig era. So come to find out, Sean Bean, he is the villain. He feels like the British government betrayed him. Now, this is where we kind of get into the weeds on this. Sean Bean in the movie says that like, oh yeah, the British government betrayed the Lienz Cossacks. That's a World War II thing. Sean Bean is too young to be like a Lienz Cossack or even...
Okay. I'm going to defend this. So, are you a Code Theory Bond fan, or are you of the belief that this is the same man the whole time?
I've always been like, James Bond is sort of like a code name.
Yes. I am of the opinion, even though Dalton and Pierce Brosnan are significantly younger than what the character would be at that time, it is still the same man, especially when you get into the Die Another Day novelization and it starts referencing the films and the Fleming books. It is the same man has just existed this whole time, and Die Another Day is the definitive end for Bond. So even though they look young, these are Bond is still the World War II vet that he is in Fleming's books and in the films. That's from the beginning. Bond, Commander Bond, he was naval commander in World War II. That's where that comes from. So they may look younger, but they aren't. I know that's kind of confusing and like weird, but that's just, you just have to suspend your disbelief for that,
I mean, I guess you could have a plot where, like, come to find out, like, James Bond is like some sort of supernatural entity that just, for whatever reason, likes his martinis and wants to work for the British government. He's like a vampire.
And chain smokes, if it's Fleming's books, where Bond in one book cuts back from 3 packs a day to 10 cigarettes a day, and it's like he's suddenly healthier.
Can I bring the conversation back to GoldenEye, please, gentlemen?
So yeah, at the end, Bond defeats Alec Trevelyan, the Sean Bean character, makes out with Natalia in front of a bunch of U.S. Marines. Oh dear. And so I will give this 10 horny U.S. Marines out of 10. Medic?
I give it 8 slaps on temple out of 10.
Chainsaw?
Give it a 7 out of 10.
All right. Now you're back in the hot seat, Chainsaw Man, because you got to defend License to Kill. Is it the best James Bond movie ever made?
Yes, it is. It is taking...
Don't worry, Chainsaw. I'm with you on this one.
It's good. So I gotta explain my love of License to Kill, because this was the Bond film I was not allowed to watch. My mother went on a date back in the 80s and saw this film, never seeing a Bond movie in her life, and thought it was the most appalling thing she had ever watched, and so we were forbidden to watch it. But her dad was a huge Bond fan, and he collected all the VHS. And I said, hey, can we watch License to Kill? I've never seen it. He's like, oh, I haven't seen it in a while. And, oh my God, come to find out, it is every dark moment from Fleming's books is just thrown into a movie because they could do it then, mixed with Scarface. And it's the first time that Bond goes rogue.
It is a really dark story, and it is hyper violent. I mean, some of the deaths in this movie are just straight gruesome.
Also, Benicio del Toro is the creepiest Bond villain minion, I think, in any of the Bond films.
An extremely young Benicio del Toro as well.
I think it's his first movie.
Yeah, it was definitely before. It was before The Usual Suspects. I know that much.
Yeah, by a couple years. Yeah, because this was 88, 87, 88, I want to say. Basically, the plot of this is that Felix Leiter has been working with the DEA to take down this drug lord from insert Central American country. It's not a real Central American country, but cocaine was a big problem in the 80s.
Cocainador.
Yeah, it's its own. It's a made-up country, and this guy is a fugitive of justice, and he's going to be off the Florida Keys, I believe, and it's Felix's wedding day, but he's determined to get this guy. So Bond joins him because Bond's his best man, and they go and take this guy out, and he's there because his live-in girlfriend has run away with another lover, and he has the guy's heart cut out, and then he beats her with a stingray tail, which is taken from another For Your Eyes Only story called The Hildebrand Rarity, which is a fun. It's not a fun. It's actually kind of a dark and depressing story of Bond wondering if about the domestic violence and if it's his place to intervene when he sees domestic violence, because he's been hired because he's a good free diver to find this specific fish for this rich guy who is like a wannabe tough guy that beats his wife, and he's stuck on this yacht with this guy and one of Bond's friends who's only in this story, and this woman, and he contemplates whether or not he should intervene because he knows that he's beating her. It's a very dark and depressing story, and the guy and the woman beater ends up getting killed, and it becomes a whodunit after that. I won't spoil, but it's a fascinating story for 1960. But they take specifically that guy beats his wife with a stingray tail because it's extra painful because it's poisoned. And so yeah, they bring the stingray tail in. At least it's a fun intro to Bond, because Bond and Felix capture the main Bond villain, and then they parachute into the wedding, which is fun little goofy thing, only to, on the night of the wedding, our Bond villain's henchmen break in and feed Felix to a shark and horribly brutalize and murder his wife, which we then get the reference to Live and Let Die. He disagreed with something that ate him, which is a fun nod to that book. And then Bond goes off to get revenge for Felix, and M tells him he can't do it, and he does it anyway. And his license to kill is revoked. And it's basically a fistful of dollars, but James Bond.
If I remember correctly, the villain's name is Menendez.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But
which is reminding me of Black Ops 2, for those of you who played it. Menendez! And if I may be so bold, I would like to say a quick rest in peace, Sharky. You were too beautiful for this world.
Yeah, he's a fun character that they have in this film, and I like him working with Bond. It's a shame we didn't get more Sharky.
Agreed.
I also like that the Bond villain, he's a bad person, but he has a weird code of ethics, which kind of adds another level of character to him. um, which is interesting. And I like that Bond. It's Bond being a secret agent, but rogue. It's like the most undercover Bond has ever gotten in one of these movies.
He even gets a job for the villain by claiming to be a burnt spy.
Yes.
And
We also get
lest we forget. Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead, sir.
I was just gonna say we also get another fire extinguisher kill, and I swear they must have been referencing RoboCop, because there's a scene that's kind of like "Can you fly, Bobby?" where like the guy who gets sprayed in the face with the fire extinguisher gets dumped on the villain's car's hood and gets knocked off.
Okay, look. I'm gonna just rip the Band-Aid off right here. And like I said, Chico, you're not in the hot seat because I love this movie too. But this movie has 3 of the most brutal deaths you will ever see in a Bond film.
Medic,
You
that's
ha-
not Chico. That's Chainsaw.
I know.
I'm so sorry. I meant to say Chainsaw. Chico popped in and got kicked out.
Oh, yeah, it's all good.
My apology.
You must watch
But-
5 minutes of Sunday School Musical as penance.
God damn it. 5 minutes? You only made me watch a second when I shot somebody.
Well, you know, I don't make the rules,
That's a
man.
joke.
I just work here.
Well, let's talk
But-
about the depressurization kill.
Yes, but please, I would like to rank the kills in terms of gruesomeness. We have the epic decompression death. We have Benicio del Toro's threshing machine death, and we have the main villain's cocaine diesel burning to death.
With
All right.
the Felix lighter. It's the lighter that he gives Bond as a little gift.
Yeah, that's right. He got his comeuppance from the lighter,
Yes.
from Felix Leiter,
Yes.
who's feeling lighter after the shark attack
Today on Shark Week.
because he lost his limbs. Get it? He's lighter.
Yeah, they disagree. He disagreed with something that ate him.
Anyway, so all right, gruesomest death. Chainsaw, go.
As to for what's shown, because this is clearly edited down from an R. I'm gonna go with the depressurization kill because you see the most of it.
Yeah. Oh my god, you can watch it on YouTube, and let's just be realistic. It's hysterical for what it is now when you look at what we have in terms of computer graphics. But like he literally turns into like a human pinata.
Well, you say that, but remember at the end of Live and Let Die when Lafayette Coda, who's the main Bond villain, turns into a balloon and then pops?
Yeah, I remember.
Yes.
This looks a lot better than that. There's actual blood and stuff. It's more believable.
Yaphet Kotto didn't get his shares from the company, so he went to be a Bond villain.
Oh man, okay, not to get too off topic, but like the original book, I think was a little more of Live and Let Die. That is, was a little bit of the racism, but we're not going to get too much into that. It's kind of funny. I bet that's why all the Blueies hate the Bond books.
Yeah, it is a little rough. Well, it's funny you bring up Live and Let Die because this is the Felix Leiter actor from the movie Live and Let Die in License to Kill.
Oh, did not know that.
Yes, they bring him back. He's one of the few recurring actors as Felix Leiter. And it is because they pull a lot of the darker things from Live and Let Die and they put it in this film. Because you just couldn't. A lot of the stuff they put in this film was stuff that was cut from the Fleming books because it was too violent. So,
I will
but
say
anyway,
Go on.
I was gonna go to this is my absolute favorite Bond girl, like hands down. Is the one in this one. I know
I don't have a clip for that because I couldn't tell which one was the Bond girl. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so I'm not like I know there were like two. There's like a stealth one.
The one that's helping Bond infiltrate, not the villain's live-in girlfriend, because she's just a terrible actor. It's like the one downside is that woman can't act. But the other one, that's the American DEA agent. I like her quite a bit.
Yeah, she looks all right.
Also, this is the Q film. This is what Q comes out, and it's Q's gadgets and stuff are in this, and it's, even though this is a really dark film, we get Q to kind of lighten things up at times. It's nice.
They have to share a room.
Yes. And he says, Q, I hope you don't snore. They also, there's a lot of nods, and I'm trying not to get off track, but I want to get these out there. He goes back to using a Beretta 25 at one point, which is the original Bond gun, if we want to get technical. But yeah, I don't know. I absolutely love this film. I love the meta of it. I love that it's Bond going rogue, because like Daniel Craig is his Bond films, he's always going rogue, so that's kind of like it's like when Picard goes rogue in the TNG movies, you know, you just get desensitized to it after a while.
Yeah.
But this is the first going rogue, and in my opinion, it's the time it's done the best. That's all I have to say.
There is also a weird Chinese or Japanese subplot going on too with ninjas.
Yeah, because it was the 80s.
And it just literally goes nowhere. Like, ninjas just show up and then that's it.
Well, they all get killed.
I know, and that's what I mean. It's like they're here, they give their justification, and then they're just gone. So what would you rate it, gentlemen?
I give it, I'd say 7 Thresher kills out of 10.
Chainsaw?
I give it 10 Felix Leiter burnings out of 10.
A perfect score.
Uh-huh.
I give it an 8.5 decompression sicknesses out of 10.
All right, so one last thing I want to mention about the Dalton Bonds. Oh my God, they're 80s. Like, I know that there were some like Roger Moore Bonds in the 80s, but like the two Timothy Daltons feel like they are of the 80s from the music to the plots to everything. Like, License to Kill came out in 89, the year I was born. And it just feels so 80s. It's just like it screams of 80s in a way.
Yeah, I will say A View to a Kill, the last Roger Moore movie, is also really 80s. Those are like the 80s trilogy. But yeah, you know, they are. That was on purpose. And also, they wanted a younger Bond. We have a younger Moneypenny.
Oh, yeah. I just gotta say, that younger Moneypenny, ooh, that is the hottest Moneypenny has ever been.
Yeah.
But go on.
It's a shame they didn't bring her back for GoldenEye.
All right. So, Triple X, you wanted to talk a bit about The Rock from 1995.
That's right. We cannot talk James Bond without discussing The Rock. The absolute best James Bond film that wasn't a James Bond film that is absolutely a James Bond film.
So, in The Rock...
You know it. You love it. Set us up the bomb, General.
So, in the movie The Rock, a bunch of rogue U.S. Marines get a bunch of chemical weapons, and they are threatening to blow up, I think it's San Francisco, someplace in California.
Yeah,
correct.
So,
They're on Alcatraz with VX poison rockets.
Okay. So, Nicolas Cage is brought in to try to take him down, and he basically frees Sean Connery, and it's implied that he's James Bond, because originally he was held at Alcatraz, and so he knows how to get in because he was able to escape, kind of. And there's a lot of little evidences throughout the movie that the Sean Connery character might be James Bond.
A British SAS agent caught at the Canadian border with stolen microfilm, which the British government denounces, claiming they never heard of him. And he's been held without trial his whole life, like a burnt spy would be. And how many other timelines line up absolutely perfectly with the story? Some of them, I admit, don't line up, but if you look at the picture as a whole, he's in country for everything correctly as the Bonds were. Even if it wasn't a Bond film, Jerry Bruckheimer and Michael Bay knew what they were doing with that movie.
Yeah, it's clearly fans of the Bond franchise. Why they couldn't make their own Bond movie, so they made this. It's similar to how Indiana Jones was. Steven Spielberg wanted to make a Bond movie, but they wouldn't give the Broccoli's wouldn't give him creative control, so he walked away. And then George Lucas is like, "What if I have this guy Indiana Jones?" So Indiana Jones has some similar things to Bond.
All right,
You know, and what's really funny too is, like, this is a Nicolas Cage vehicle, but Sean Connery steals this movie. I couldn't give a shit less about what Stanley Goodspeed is up to. I want more John Patrick Mason.
Well, it isn't. So this is my take on it too. It's also kind of a Jack Ryan sort of movie, and the Nicolas Cage character is the Jack Ryan, kind of like the Harrison Ford played in Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games. It just feels kind of like that dynamic. Like, it always gives me like a Hunt for Red October kind of vibe in a way, but like also a Bond film.
Yeah, I can definitely see a bit of Jack Ryan in it too. Yes, and Sean Connery is just such a badass in this movie. Like, pulls no punches, has the best lines, the best kills. Just, such a good movie. If you've never seen The Rock, please, please, please go see it.
It really is legitimately good. All right, one last.
And we
thing.
have to rate it before we end it. But go ahead.
Okay, my rating is, I'd give it a good 8 prom queens out of 10.
Chainsaw?
I can't rate this simply because I have not seen this in 20 years.
Oh.
And so now I have to. Tonight, I'm going to go watch it so I can just dub my rating in later.
All right. I'll do a pinned comment.
I rate this movie a 10. I'm just borrowing your Humvees out of 10.
All right, before we go, what's everybody's opinion on Never Say Never Again? I actually think it's not that bad. I kind of like it for what it does. Like, the idea of Bond, of Sean Connery's Bond getting too old to be Bond. The fact that he has, like, acidic urine because of all the martini drinking. Because, yes, there's a scene in Never Say Never Again where he throws his own urine in somebody's face and it melts their face off. I like the Bond villainous in that, where, like, she kind of, like, captures Bond, right? And she wants him to write her name in, like, his memoirs and say, like, she was, like, the best sex he ever had. It is fun.
And also it's got Philadelphia.
Wait a second.
It was. He's like, but there was that girl. It's either from Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. And she gets all upset, and then he shoots her with the pen.
Yep, the first exploding pin. Of all the
has to be Philadelphia.
Philadelphia sounds about right.
Only Philadelphia girls would make you kill them with an exploding pen.
It's Always Sunny there.
You know, I'm not a big fan of that show. I've never seen it. I just don't like watching shows.
You take that back, good sir.
Are we still on the clock here?
No, we're wrapping it up. We're wrapping it up. Okay. Anyway, what do y'all rate Never Say Never Again?
Chainsaw.
I give it a 5 out of 10 simply because Sean Connery carries it. I don't think and that the henchwoman, she's good, but everything else kind of sucks in Never Say Never Again. My thing is, there's a fan edit that replaces the terrible smooth jazz, the awful discount. We got this jazz band from the dollar store soundtrack with Bond music from the other Connery films, and they also they edit in the Thunderball credits over it because this also has terrible credits. And they cut out the video game scene.
Nothing good.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna rate it 5 urine samples out of 5. It's not the best Bond out there. It ain't technically the worst Bond out there, and it's a good way to kill time if you're just looking for something to do. Other than that, that's all I got.
And I give it 6.5 exploding pins. All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you, Triple X, for showing up.
You're always welcome. Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank you, Chainsaw Productions, for showing up as well.
Thank you for working with me today on this.
All right, and so I'm going to wish you good Moonraker.
And I'm going to wish you good Skyfall.
And I'm going to wish you good Thunderball and good License to Kill.
Whatever.
You can have 2.
I'm the one with the podcast. The Bond podcast.
I'll allow it. Whatever. Makes you happy.
Subscriber Day!
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.